Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another episode of the Rare Humans podcast, where we talk about how to thrive with the complex biology in today's day and age. Today, we have a very special guest, a good friend of Kevin's, a man named Cam. Kevin, I'll let you take it away. Tell
Cameron Verdi, the legend, type 1 diabetic, like Jack and I, one of my best friends that I grew up with. Cam, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Kev, thanks for having me. It's, anything I can do to always help the cause, I'm always happy to do.
Yeah, so quick story before I ask Cameron his first question. Number one, you'll notice Jack and I are in person. Jack is in the States, so he's staying with me. He ate all my food, so when he leaves tomorrow, we'll have to go grocery shopping. But it's been a pleasure having Jack. He's called my son Hudson. What have you been calling him?
Hunter.
He's called him Hunter 30 times. I told him in the water today, we were surfing.
He's hunting waves.
If you call him Hunter one more time, I'm going to punch you in the face. So we're kind of at that point in our relationship. So anyways, we surfed this morning, pushed Jack into waves. So anyways, so when I got diagnosed with type 1, Cameron was 5, Jack was 2 when they were type 1. I was 27, so I was super lucky to get it later in life. And my buddy, Dave, he was one of my best friends, was super good friends with Cam. Cam and I grew up together. And he said, you know, Cam's a type 1. Mind you, I'm 27 years old. I have no idea Cam's a type 1. Now, why would I? I'm not a type 1. I don't even know what that means until now, right? So
Did you know Cameron was a type 1 while you guys were growing up together?
No, and we'll get into that. But the point is, like, it's a good reminder. Like, no one knows anything about type 1 if you're not a type 1. Like, what does that even matter to you, right? Mm-hmm. So I started texting Cam, and I would say during that first year of being a type 1 diabetic, I texted Cam at least 500 times. He was that resource that I needed when I became a type 1. All the food, the questions, I'm high, I'm low, what do I do? So Cam was my savior. We became great friends, like a brother now. And so Cam, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on. Excited to have you with us today.
Hey, Kevin. It's my great honor, and thanks for having me.
So Cameron, we always ask everyone when we kind of start the podcast, give us just a quick background of like your diagnosis story. Kind of how it all started, give us the background on you and becoming a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah, it's funny because as you touched on a second ago, I was diagnosed at the age of 5. So very early, we're to the point where the memories aren't super strong. But some of my earliest memories are actually around that period of time because as you think about it, it's a big life event. And I distinctly have like little picture images of my mind when the day and the night where my mom and my dad knew something was off because I was going to the bathroom a lot, which is common with a diabetic that has high blood sugar. And I have vivid like little snapshot memories of that. And keep in mind, this is 1984. I'm 5 years old.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I've recalled largely based on stories that I've heard from my mom and my dad is my mom took me to the doctor immediately the next day. The doctor confirmed, it appears your son's type 1 diabetic. We need to enroll him in the hospital. Now, keep in mind, in 1984, I don't know how the diagnosis do now, but they checked me into the hospital for a week, which seems like an eternity. I think now if you get diagnosed, you're probably in and out within, I'm guessing, a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And looking back and hearing my parents talk about it, it's not so much that I needed to be checked in the hospital for a week, but the doctors needed to arm my parents with the tools to make sure they didn't kill me with like administering insulin, food, and all that type of stuff. And keep in mind, like 1984, there was no smartphones. We didn't have all the gadgets that we have now. And so, my parents and the doctors, taught my parents how to like prick the finger, check the blood sugar, pee on a stick to see the ketones, how to administer insulin through the syringe, fast acting, slow acting, when to eat, how quickly to eat, all these different types of things. And so I have little blips of memories of the actual diagnosis back then, little blips of memories of being in the hospital. And I don't recall being necessarily like worried or scared. I think I was just kind of like, I knew there was something going on, and I knew my parents were getting the attention I needed, and it was just a matter of kind of figuring out what that what that program was going to look like.
When you were first diagnosed, were you peeing and then using the ketone stick to measure your blood sugars, or did you have a pricker at that point where you could pull blood from your finger? When I was diagnosed in 95, I don't think they even had blood sugar monitors.
They did.
Did they?
They did. Yeah. I mean, just to give you a quick, and it's crazy looking back now, but you would prick your finger, put it on a strip, put it in this thing. You'd wait for like 30 seconds. You'd take the strip out, then you'd flip it over, put it in the machine again for another 30 seconds and wait for your reading. And you would do that like 4 or 5 times a day. It's crazy now because like now with the technology, I can look at my blood sugar anytime, all the time, 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day if I want. I'm not pricking my finger at all.
No. Yeah.
We're all in the Dexcom too, just for the audience. All of us wear a Dexcom. So the Dexcom, the continuous glucose monitor, is tapped into our phone and reads our blood sugars. Cameron and I also are on the Omnipod. And so that Dexcom and that Omnipod talk to each other. So the Omnipod is adjusting all the time with our readings. So life is a lot easier than it was. I was 2008 and a lot later in life, but still, Dexcom was a newer thing in like 2010, Omnipod, same thing. So times have changed. So Cameron, what was some of those things when you were a kid? How was it being 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, being a type 1 back then? We knew so much less than we do now. How was your diet? How did your parents handle that when you went to birthday parties and did things? Like, do you remember that stuff?
Yeah, I remember it vividly. And you touched on it a second ago. You didn't know I was type 1 because honestly, I kept it to myself. I like outside of people that were like very close. I'm a youngster. I didn't want to feel different. I wasn't like broadcasting that. There was concern that I didn't want to be made to feel different, and so I tried to live as normal of a life as I could, and I think I lived a very normal life, and I was blessed to have a lot of great friends, including Kevin in Tustin growing up, and so like the people that are close to me, it was really a non-issue. But like birthday parties and sporting events and all that type of stuff, there were just extra steps I had to take. I had to avoid the birthday cake and the pizza parties and that kind of stuff. You just kind of have to be mindful of what you can consume versus you can't consume. And going to sporting events is, if I'm honest, as a kid, I felt kind of lame having to bring snacks and that kind of stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, the fact that I was able to even play sports was great. There's kids that are in wheelchairs. There's kids that don't have that opportunity. So if I have to bring snacks, get over it. Yeah, I brought snacks and I was a little bit embarrassed about it and I kind of kept it tucked away. But in the grand scheme of things, like it didn't like make me down or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. I wish we could, as young kids, have that kind of awareness. Like, I don't know when you had that awareness of, so grateful to be afforded the opportunity. I think when I was a kid, it was so much of like, why me, why me, why me? But now in my 30s, I'm starting to realize, God, I'm so blessed, like to just be able to do it in the first place. So
Cameron and I have had those conversations because, Cameron and I are the same age. So I was 27 and I remember asking him, I said, what do you do like on your really bad days with diabetes? He goes, I don't have bad days. So I remember really, and we all have days when we struggle, and Cameron and I have texted about that, but it's a perspective, right? I mean, I remember asking Cameron said, listen, like, if I'm going to have any lifelong chronic disease, type 1's the one to have. He said, because, it's one of those things that makes you better. And I think the three of us can agree we're actually better humans, better people, more empathetic, way better shape, think more about what we eat and take care of ourselves, probably more than 99.9% of the population because we're type 1s. Would you agree with that, Cam?
Yeah, 1,000%. And we've talked about this at great length, and especially with the advancements in medicine, like I feel like I live an amazing life, a great life, and there's not really much I can't do. Yeah, sure, I have to be a little bit more responsible, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. And when when I think about and constantly remind myself of people that are dealing with situations that are far worse, like who am I to complain about having to be mindful of what I eat, having to be mindful of having some exercise and having to administer insulin. It's really not that big of a deal. And so I don't struggle, and you won't ever really hear me complain about it, because I, I've told Kevin this too, even if they found a cure, and eventually they probably will, I would probably be a very slow adopter to doing any type of major procedure, until it was at least very fleshed out, or maybe not, because I love my life, and I don't remember not being a diabetic, and so I don't remember not having to think through these things, and so I'm not like having this burning desire to like be cured, quote unquote.
The guardrails you put on yourself to thrive actually allow you to thrive in a way that normal people envy,
Yeah,
And
for sure.
gratefulness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of all of us dealing with chronic disease, the three of us hundreds of times in our lives were probably up at 2, 3 in the morning at the same time, eating a bowl of cereal or shoving honey down our mouth or eating a piece of cake that was left over in the fridge covered in sweat. And so we're part of a very elite group of people that have had to deal with struggles, but also have had to build, we've talked about this in our other podcast, a lot of grit and resilience. Being type 1s. I think we tend to be more of a grateful lot because we usually get it pretty young. It's funny you guys got it so young. I was 27. I honestly, Cameron, I remember very little before type 1, as far as you know how your brain works, right? It works for survival. Now that I've been a type 1 for so long, since 2008, January, I almost really don't remember before that and how I ate. And I don't even think like, God, I wish I could do that again. Like, I'm just so adapted to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So maybe the daily habits, Jack, what do you think?
Sure. So let's talk about daily habits, Cam, routines, and tools that help you stay healthy. And I want to place emphasis on like the highs and the lows. Like, how do you manage around those?
Yeah. The funny thing is, being a diabetic at such a young age almost conditioned my personality, where like I believe I do very well with structure. And when I say that, it's largely because to have good blood sugar, there's a lot of variables, and you can't control all of them. I get that. You can't control them, but there's a handful that you can control. And the more that you responsibly control, the higher probability you'll have of having good blood sugar. I mean, that's not rocket science. That's really just what it boils down to. And so for me, I'm very regimented, to be honest, and like almost kind of boring. And it's like I have the foods that I like, and I know how my body responds to that, and I don't really have a burning desire to vary from that. Now, when I travel and at meetings, everything's not black and white, but in terms of my structure, like I'm very structured. I pretty much have my first meal of the day is pretty much the same thing. It's been the same thing for a long time.
What is it?
I do a protein shake. I do blueberries. I do Greek yogurt. I do a banana. I do ginger. I do carrots and celery juicing before I do any of that. And I have an avocado.
And so you got, I guess the carbs in there are the banana, the blueberries, maybe a bit of Greek yogurt, and then do you find the protein lifts? Like, how much insulin will you give yourself for? How many carbs are in that ballpark, and then how many units of insulin will you give yourself for that?
You know what's funny? And my endocrinologist laughs because I'm kind of OG. I don't know. I don't do the whole carb and and I should. And my endocrinologist, he laughs at me. He's like, dude,
I don't either.
I don't know. Like to be honest with you, I really don't know. But to my earlier point, I know, like, if I consume this meal and my blood sugar's around this, I know what I need to take, and I dose appropriately. Appropriately, and so I'm always like, I know I've conditioned myself to say, okay, if I'm gonna, as an example, if I'm gonna go to In-N-Out, I pretty much know how much insulin I need to take, and I'll dose for that. I don't have the faintest clue about carbs, fats, any of that kind of stuff. But but my structure, I've just, I've conditioned my mind to be like, have a general idea of what I need to take based on what I'm eating. And the last couple of years and I've talked about this with Kevin quite a bit, that I've really embraced, that's helped me a lot, is after I eat, I try to go on a 10 or 15-minute walk.
Love
a lot
it.
of time for work, a lot of time I'm on the phone. So, I'll eat and then I'll take my phone and I'll be talking, but I'll be walking. And I've read that helps with the, post-meal excursions, that helps with, allowing the insulin kind of get going and don't have that wild spike. And it helps me a lot. And I think, whether you're diabetic or not, I think going on a 15-minute walk after you eat is super important.
Huge.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that yesterday, Cam, we were talking about it yesterday is when you move after you eat, right? You give your body the ability to use some of those carbohydrates and, absorb, right? Your muscles are there to pull in and the carbohydrates and let it use it. If we eat a bunch of carbs and we sit, I tell people all the time, I might take 8 units, but if I'm going to go walk the dog after, which I always do after I eat, I'm going to take 3 to 4 units.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's funny, Cam, you mentioned regimented. That's a good way to explain. Like everybody loves Cameron. He's a great guy, but Cam's been very successful. And I think this needs to be mentioned, Cam, because I think there's a lot of young people that are potentially going to see this podcast and they're going to think, can I even live a normal life? And I think what they'll learn with the three of us is we're all very normal people, but not to toot our own horns, the three of us are pretty successful. And what do I mean by success? I know in America, we always say money, money, money. And obviously money comes with success, but we're all very successful in our personal relationships, our families, we invest in our health, and we all own businesses. Cameron is a very successful entrepreneur. For those of you that have ever heard of Progenix, which was really the biggest CrossFit supplement brand at one point, Cameron was one of the owners in that, is one of the owners in that. And then also as well, he had a big part of Liquid IV in the early days. And Cameron's done a bunch of businesses and built a lot of success. So, and then Jack owns the Low Carb Co., which is an extremely successful company growing like crazy right now. And I own the Stro Group, and I actually own a couple businesses in the functional medical space. So why do I say that? Because Cam, here's a great question for you. Going back to what Jack asked you, like, you're an entrepreneur. You're traveling, you're on planes, you're busy, you're up early, you're up late sometimes, you're dealing with clients, you're at dinners. Like, how has being a type 1 diabetic been a positive in traveling and eating and regimentation and running a business and being super focused and diligent? How do you feel like being a type 1 has helped you in that arena?
Good question, Kevin. I think as I touched on it, because I was diagnosed at such a young age, and because I had to develop tools and skills to manage my diabetes that just bled into all aspects of my life. As a diabetic, you're always thinking. You're thinking about, okay, when's my next meal? Do I have enough insulin? If I run out of insulin, where's my backup? When am I going to get some exercise? You're always kind of thinking, and so it can kind of conditions your mind for that, and that bleeds into all aspects of your life, including business. Okay, it's like, okay, how's the AR looking? What's that looking like? What's the product pipeline development looking like? How's managing the debt looking like? What where are the next big events? So you're always kind of always thinking, and it would be interesting to hear from former business partners of mine, their take on it. But it's kind of gift and a curse, because in a lot of ways, like, I never get down. I just don't. But but I'm also not this guy that you'll never see, even if something worthwhile being excited or happy about happens. I'm also not a guy like jumping around and I don't get hyper excited, and I don't get done. I just kind of keep it even keel, because that's kind of how like the diabetes conditions you. Like there are days where you're high, or the period where you're high, where you're low, and then you're just trying to keep that baseline. And so I think being a diabetic just kind of bleeds into all aspects of my life. And I don't necessarily think good or bad, but sometimes I laugh to myself that I could be a little bit boring. I have like a lot of structure. I wake up pretty much the same time every day. I have a pretty disciplined workout regimen. I do my cold plunge. I do my sauna. I'm kind of like, I've kind of got my groove, and it serves me well, and it helps me anticipate managing my blood sugar and my day and everything that's going on, but it's pretty structured, and, I've had my long-term girlfriend, Liza, live with me for years. And she'd always be like, "Oh, can't you just break your cycle a little bit?" I'm like, "No, I can't. I can't. I can't." And and I think the sooner she came to kind of accept that, the better for her, because I wasn't going to change it. I'm not going to change it. It just, that's my program, and that's what it is. And and it helps me kind of keep all my pieces going in the right direction.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. Question for you. The highs and the lows, they hurt. Like for me, when I go through a period of a really high blood sugar, I get exasperated. I get frustrated. I get nervy. And when I have a period of a low blood sugar, I feel depressed and wasted. And then, for a couple of hours after, like if I'm blessed to be at home, I can like lie down and chill for a minute and like get back to baseline. But if I'm out and about and I'm low, I'm going to be straggling for, a while. How do you kind of how do you roll with those punches?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier now than it used to be, especially with the Dex pump, because in the old days, you wouldn't know you're in trouble until you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Like because your body would be sending you signals like, "Hey bro, you're getting pretty low."
Yeah.
But now with like the technology, like you see the graphs, you see where you're headed. And it's just a matter of like, okay, when I see where I'm headed, make the corrections as quickly as possible to kind of curb that higher low. But to answer your question directly, I mean, yeah, it sucks. Listen, if you're low, it sucks. And, for me, when I get low, it kind of creates an element of confusion, and which is not good, because, pretty much all I do for making money is like making decisions, right? Like I'm judgment, strategy, all that kind of stuff. And so when I'm low, it's small enough pockets where I just kind of take myself out of situations where I'm not going to make a decision that I regret.
Gotcha.
And I try to do corrections as fast as possible. And when I'm high, I'm irritable, and I know I'm irritable. And being high doesn't feel good, as we all know. So I'm trying to dose, appropriately, but I'm also just trying to walk, or just trying to get some exercise to get that sugar down. I don't feel compromised when I'm high, in terms of making decisions and like having to do like normal stuff from a functioning standpoint. I only really feel compromised when I'm low. And that's where I just kind of try to remove myself out of situations to kind of get myself back into a good spot.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like when I'm high and when I'm low, the fact that I'm nervy or, I'm untethered is when I start to make decisions that are in haste. But I like remove yourself from the situation. For me anyways, it's like when I'm in that spiral of a low, I feel this sense of urgency to like do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes like I need to get this done now, and you start to get frustrated and you start to you spiral. But have the wherewithal to remove yourself from that situation. Say that in 30 minutes I'm going to be better, and in an hour I'm going to be able to come back to baseline to make that decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny too, because people struggle with such basic things, and I think we all kind of probably chuckle sometimes at people and like what really affects them, right? And we all have our baseline, and we all have that rubber band that it can only stretch so far before it pulls back, right? And I think the best way to explain being a type 1 diabetic is that rubber band is stretched so many times that the three of us, right, can get a little further out there, and we can kind of figure it out. I was telling Jack, when I got Omnipod, those pumps used to kind of go haywire, 10 years ago. And now I can't remember the last time I had an issue with my pump, unless it fell out or something crazy that it didn't have anything to do with Omnipod or Insulet. And I remember I was on this trip and I had 4 pods and 3 failed in the same day. And I literally didn't have long-acting insulin, and I only had a pen of like Novolog or Humalog. And so for the next 48 hours until I flew home, I just had to give myself micro doses of Humalog.
Yeah.
And I remember like after about an hour or two, it was like, all right, this is I'm going to deal with this. So I remember that it was like, what are you going to do? I mean, I might even texted you, Cam. I was earlier in the game, and it's like, you know what? If I eat, I just take bigger doses, and instead of taking 50 shots, I just took bigger shots, and manage the lows. And, I got home and I put on a new pump and I survived. But there's people that don't deal with that stuff over a decade, right? And we're all kind of making micro adjustments all the time. So Cam, I love what you said there, because it's like, if you're regimented, if you're eating the same foods, if you wake up at the same time, if you have the routines and the cold plunges and the sauna, and you eat kind of the same thing, managing what we manage, it feels like we can kind of control a lot more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I love hearing that. Cam, I think everybody loves to hear this. Give us an idea. Just, it doesn't have to be crazy, but like, what time do you wake up? What time do you go to bed? What's a normal day look for you like? What are you kind of eating? I know you mentioned breakfast. Like, give me just a short, like, what's a routine day for you look like? Starting your day. How do you start it?
I don't think you've ever shared this either. We might just take turns and go around the circle.
I'll be the first to admit, like, as big as I am on health and wellness, the one thing I'm really bad at and I need to get better at is sleep. I don't sleep enough. But to answer your question, I get up every day at 6:15. I'm an avid equities trader, so I love to get up before the market opens. I get up. I generally don't eat my first meal until about 11:30, 12 o'clock, somewhere around there. I get up. I have my routine. I have an elderly mother who I go on a walk with for 30 minutes. It's good for her. So I meet her in the morning, go on a walk with her, come back, and then I kind of embark on my workout routine. I start with my cold plunge, and then whether I'm doing cardio or weights or a combination of both, I'll do that. And then I finish up my workout with the sauna. I love 25 minutes of the infrared sauna. I think there's a lot of studies out there that say that it's pretty conclusive that it's good for you. So that's what I do. Keep in mind, like, in between that time, I'm managing maybe some calls, definitely some messages and emails, which is fine. But I'm kind of getting that out of the way, because I feel like if I push my workout until later in the day, I just kind of get sucked up into my day, and a lot of time I'll end up missing it. And I like to do my workout. I found my body does well doing my workout when I'm fasted. So I have my first meal, like I said, around 11:30 or 12. I try to eat my dinners, before 8 o'clock if I can. If I'm out and about, it's not. I don't operate on such a structure where it's like, oh, I eat at this time and every day, because I'm living my life, and there, if Kevin says, hey, let's grab dinner, but I can't meet till 7:30, I'm not gonna be like, sorry, bro, I can't do it. I my last meal is at 6:30. I'm gonna eat with Kevin at 7:30. So I'm not that regimented. I try to be in bed, asleep by midnight. We try to do pretty disciplined about that. So that's my normal routine, but I don't generally eat after my last meal of being a dinner. I'm not really a big snacker, so I don't do that. And, I think in terms of like in terms of diet, without getting to like specifics, I don't really think that's a big concern. I'm pretty heavy on protein and fat. I'm not too heavy on carbs. I don't do a lot of carbs for dinner. If I can, I try to avoid that. Kevin tried to suck me into like far at 6 o'clock. That's just not going to work. It's too much carbs. But heavy on the protein, heavy on the fats. I think everyone's body type performs differently. For me, I've just learned that high protein, high fat is good for me. So that's kind of what I do. And then
so 2 meals a day, Cam?
2 meals a day with
three.
Yeah, 2 meals a day with maybe a decent snack. And when I say snack, one of my best snacks that I enjoy is, an apple with almond butter, or celery sticks with almond butter. I enjoy that as a snack. I try to have a handful of almonds as a snack. So 2 meals and some decent snacks through the day,
cool.
depending on my blood sugar. And I'll be honest too, I'm human. Like, if my blood sugar is low, I'll indulge on things. I'll have a Kirkland ice cream bar, like whatever. I'm going to live my life.
Cameron loves sweets.
Yeah, I do. I honestly, I
he has
I
a
do.
sweet tooth.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. And I don't abuse it, but I also, like, I'm going to die one day. I know that. So like when I'm low and, I can have a sweet and I want a sweet, I'm going to do it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cameron knows how to hack the game. He's having dinner and he's like, I probably need 4 units, but I'm going to take 10 so I can have some dessert at the end. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
but you've earned it.
It's all about balance, I mean,
Yeah,
you think about it, like, I'm grateful. Like, if we were having this conversation 50 years ago, I'd probably be dead by now, but I've been diabetic 42 years. I feel great. I'm pretty religious about my following up with my endo and the blood results and the eye exams, all that kind of stuff. And knock on wood, all the results are great. They're like, if you didn't say you were diabetic, we wouldn't know it. And so I count my blessings, and I'm very grateful for that. But I'm also mindful of, I'm going to treat myself where I can, because
live a little, man.
So you're not sleeping as much these days, Cam. We're going to have to talk about this offline. I'm not happy about this 6 hours.
Yeah. Honestly, I called myself out. It's a problem.
You used to sleep more.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened.
Used to be 11. I mean, I remember like after 10:30, I could never get a hold of you for years because I used to be a night owl.
Yeah,
got to get you dialed in.
Yeah, I don't know. I admittedly, I'm not.
Life's
sure
short. You got stuff to do.
Late?
I'll do some work late, but it's just like, honestly, before I know it, I'm like, even if I'm like tired, I'm like, I got to get to bed early. But before I know it, it's like 10:45, 11, and then it's like you live with someone, so like that, they're also got.
So Liza's up later. She's the culprit.
She contributes, but I would. She contributes, but
partners in crime.
Yeah, I won't put it all on her. I mean, there is nice like transition time. We like to watch movies and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So there's kind of like that transition time in your day that you don't necessarily want to skip, because then you just feel like a complete robot.
Totally.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sense.
And I'll jump in and then I'll let Jack. Similar routine. I mean, I'm pretty diligent. I'd say I get up at 7 because I'm not looking at the market first thing. And Cam and I, we've been doing intermittent fasting for a long time. So right now I'm off my routine because I'm training for a triathlon. So for me, I need to get carbs and food as early in the day as possible. That way, because like Cam said, carbs later in the day for diabetics don't really work that well. So I noticed for me, even a big protein shake after like 3 o'clock with, a lot of fat, a lot of protein, and some raw milk and maybe whatever, but always crushes my blood sugars. So for me, I've found during this phase of triathlon training that I need to really get calories and food in me by like noon. Yeah. And then I start tapering off. And then when I eat dinner at 6 or whatever, I really do drop the carbs. I'll have an Ezekiel tortilla, which is like, 17 grams of net carbs, but it's I'm taking like 3 units. It's not a big deal. But my day's a little flipped. I'm not working out first thing in the morning. Generally, I'm working out later in the day because I'm usually kind of getting going. But yeah, similar with the food, like Cam, he does the Greek yogurt, he does the shake, he does the avocado. I think Cam and I, we talked about that a handful of years ago, Cameron, like adding an avocado. And what a kind of superfood. I also buy the frozen avocado for Target, and I'll drop it in my shake. But when you're about to eat a bigger meal and you eat like an avocado with it, I think, number one, it's a superfood, one of the greatest things you can eat, but it adds so much fat to your meal that it's almost like you don't need to eat as much of everything else, right? Mm-hmm. So I love hearing that. And then, ideally, if you can get to bed same time, and get up, I honestly these days, Cam, I'm in bed. I'm asleep by 11. I'm up at 7. So I'm really sleeping 8 hours these days, especially triathlon training, because I'm pushing my body. I feel like I really need the recovery of sleep because that's really when your body recovers.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'm going to start offline checking Cameron on his sleep habits. At 10, I'm going to go, Cameron, 1 more hour.
Yeah.
We need some sleep.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kevin.
The last thing Cameron needs.
You're always looking out for me, bro.
Cameron helped me so much. I've helped him a ton with stuff. It's great. Yeah. And then Jack, because he got Addison's as well with me. We're always digging in with the Addisons. So Jack, what's kind of your daily routine? You're a younger guy. You're not married yet. You're no kids. Like what's your routine look like?
I'm basically fasted till 11.
What time are you up in the morning usually? I know
7.
It's different. 7.
7 o'clock. Fasted till 11. I used to work out at like 9 or 10, but I find the morning workouts actually kill me. like I get exhausted and the rest of the day I'm dragging. So I'll fast till 11, I'll eat my first meal, and then I'll try to play tennis. I'll work into the afternoon at around 3 or 4 p.m. When I no longer have insulin on board from breakfast, then I'll play tennis. And if I'm in a good range, I can like coast through that range. I'll either do a workout after, like lift weights and then sauna cold plunge like you. And then it's just a question of getting home at 6 or 7, have dinner, maybe do an hour of work, watch a TV show, kind of coast into the evening. And then I'm in bed, try Christ, 9:30, 10, asleep by 10:30. I mean, I need sleep. I mean, we all need sleep, but like I literally, when I get 6 hours of sleep, I feel strung out. And like, I have a Whoop, so I have a fitness tracker. So, you see the recoveries just like slide when you're not sleeping. But this week has been a challenge. I did 2 days in Vegas. I did 3 days in Palm Desert, and then I did 3 days in Beverly Hills, and now I'm here for 3 days. So it's been tough because we didn't super get into it, but like it's the intricacies of the day-to-day differences that make it so hard to manage. Like Kevin and I have been working out big time for the last 2 days. So my basal insulin, I started off at 16, but I wake up every morning now low. So I haven't been able to.
He's on the stroke routine, Cam. I'm pushing his ass.
Yeah, pushing big time, which is great. I feel fired up during the day, but then it's like 6:30 in the morning, and my blood sugars are at 3.5, and I'm like, oh. Christ.
For you Canadians, Cam and I don't.
Just watching my blood sugars go like.
Yeah.
So I'm eating at 7, and now I'm on the fast. So it's like okay, like totally different game to play. And then we went surfing this morning at 9, which is amazing, and like just like counting my blessings that it worked out. Grateful I had Kev to talk to. Like I had a 50-gram carbohydrate sandwich. I gave myself 0 units of insulin, and I coasted through it. And then I gave myself 3 units of insulin after the fact, and that brought me right back down. So like, but it's so hard to know, like on day in and day out. And I'm thinking to myself first thing in the morning, like, please God, let this work. Because like if I go low, Christ, that's really going to suck. And if I go high, well, I know I'm going to feel like crap. So
Cameron, do you notice if you work out really hard or something different in your workouts so you get a little bit higher, like there's a cortisol response at all? Do you ever see that?
Yeah, a lot of people, and a lot of people, I wish I understood this more when I was younger, but a lot of the time the cortisol response is driving your sugar up. And so to answer your question, yes, I do find that depending on what I'm like, whether it's weights or cardio, there's some impact in that, and your body will respond accordingly. But the cortisol is a real thing, and I think it's becoming a hot buzzword because I think a lot of people are starting to become more aware of it. And I think the more you can taper the cortisol spike, the better off you are.
What are your workouts generally, Cam? Are you doing like HIIT or like straight up weightlifting?
No, I mean my workout routines now are, I have a stationary bike at the house, so I'll do every other day. I'll cycle. I have a kind of a program, but
are you clipping in, Cam, and doing the whole thing?
Not clipping, but I could clip if I wanted to. I have a pair of Vans that I just love rocking with no socks, and I just
you should clip. You should clip, Cam, because you know how you're pushing. Yeah. When you clip, you're also pulling, which is nice for the quads because you got nice quads. I don't, so I need to work that area.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But the interesting thing is on the stationary bike, like I'm trying to pay attention to my zones and where my heart rate's at in terms of like what my goals are. And so I'm trying to stay in certain ranges depending on my workout. But to answer your question, so I'll cycle every other day on my, like, I'll call it my flush days. I'll do like a 60-minute walk. I'll do my sauna and cold plunge on every of those days, but I generally won't cycle 2 days in a row. I'll cycle flush walk for 60 minutes. And then
how long is the bike ride? How long is the cycle?
We just lost you, Cam. We lost you. Okay. We lost you, Cameron. There we go.
So sorry. So you do a 60-minute flush walk. How long is the bike beforehand?
The flush walk is alternate days. So if I do a bike, then I'll go straight to sauna. But the next day I'll do the flush walk.
How long do you bike
when I say flush walk, just so you understand what I'm saying, because when you ride the bike, or you have, like, in my experience, you have high high strain on your body, you're retaining a lot of water. And so on my off, quote unquote, off days, like the walk, a lot of time what I'm doing is I'm flushing the water retention.
Interesting. All right.
So that's why I do it, because I try to stay pretty hydrated for general health, but also for my diabetes too.
Sure. So you do a 60-minute bike or you do a 60-minute walk, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So how do you carb up or do you eat beforehand? And
No.
Where in that 60-minute period do you see yourself start to dip?
I don't.
Interesting.
I don't eat beforehand, and the cortisol is driving me up.
Yep.
And then I think the exercise is starting to bring me down, but if I'm starting to dip, it'll be after I'm wrapping up my sauna, which is 25 minutes after my workout.
Wow.
See, that's the difference, Jack. So Jack has a different type of diabetes, right? Because he's
40 minutes into any cardio, I start to go down.
Well, because he's injecting. So when you have a Dexcom that talks to your pump, it learns your habits. And so Cameron's Dexcom and pump know his habits. And so it's going to be putting very little insulin into him in the morning around those times, knowing. Whereas Jack, he's just got his basal rate, his long-term running, and he can do nothing about it.
I do it like a caveman.
So it really is a different disease when you inject. And so Cam, I don't want to get in the weeds on stuff, and I want to, because I know we're at 50 minutes, I want to ask you, and then we ask everybody this just to kind of conclude, because I think you've given people a lot of, advice and hope of like, yeah, you can be successful, you can live the life you want, you can sleep a little less, but being regimented is really the key. What's your best advice for someone maybe that's a newer type 1 or a parent watching this that their kid is a newer type 1? And what's your best advice for them that you would give to anybody that you would meet to give them that advice to take with them?
I think if I had to give advice, I think I would say the following. You got to be practical in your approach. And, I always laugh. I'll give you an example. I always laugh when people come up with, their New Year's resolution and they're going to work out 2 hours a day, every day, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not sustainable. Like, I hate when I don't want to say I hate, but I don't like when I hear that, because like, what's the point of setting yourself up for failure? If you put together a model that's not going to be sustainable, there's no point. And so to answer your question directly, Kevin, I think I would attempt to get as much structure as reasonably possible into your life or into your child's life as you can. And it's hard, but you kind of build some structure, and there's going to be some resistance, but in my mind, structure as a diabetic is your friend. It really is. And so, and learn your body. Like, a lot of time, Kevin, when you were messaging me and I was trying to give you advice, I'd always give you the caveat that like everyone's body's different. Their body chemistry is different. Things respond to, people's body responds to things differently, but you got to learn your body. Your body's talking to you. Your body's telling you, situational stuff that you need to start to understand a pattern. Like, I understand a pattern when I go to the mountains, my insulin resistant. Not everyone's insulin is resistant when they go to the mountains, but my body's telling me that. I make adjustments. I understand sometimes when I fly, my blood sugar is higher than normal because of altitude or whatever the case may be. But listen to your body. So I think if I had to bullet point it out, I'd say be mindful of when your body's talking to you. Develop a structure that is sustainable, and allow yourself, some flexibility that you do got to live your life. And everything's not super black and white, but the variables that you can control or influence, control and influence them the best you can, because there are variables that you just can't. And then you're vulnerable to whatever happens to be at that, you get sick or whatever. You can't control how your blood sugar is going to react, but you can control staying hydrated. You can't control getting some exercise. You can't control giving your body the best shot at getting over that sickness as fast as possible. So focus on what you can control, be at peace with what you can't, and you can live a long, happy, healthy life.
And what I love about that answer too is that, as a type 1 diabetic, we feed on that, but like everybody can take that away. that's not just for a type 1, you know, that's for all of us. So yeah, I love it, man. Thanks for that.
Of course.
I guess my last question, we're gonna start to end every episode with this question. What does it mean to you to be a rare human
and thrive?
Honestly, like, that's rare human. I'm very grateful. So I consider myself,
I love that.
I consider myself blessed. And so,
mindset.
I would be hesitant to call myself rare versus blessed. What does it mean to be a blessed human? I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful. And, you know, we don't have any guarantees in life, but, you know, I've lived a very blessed life. I'll say that much. And I'm thankful for it. And I think that comes with responsibility, because, you know, having opportunities to give back, whether this is an opportunity to give back to anyone that might be listening, like Kevin asked me to do it. And I want to be of service, because that's, you know, I think that's the other side of the coin. You know, I've been blessed and I'm grateful, and I don't sit on those blessings or, you know, not try to give back, because then I think that's kind of shortchanging the whole point of the equation.
Yeah. And then that was Cameron's Dexcom. Are you high or low, Cam?
I'm low.
Yeah. See, we got a real moment.
Yeah,
you can't make this stuff up, you guys. See, think about this. Cam is not only doing a podcast, and Jack and Kevin, but we're all knowing what our blood sugars are, right? And we're sitting here in the middle, and I'm at 188. I just checked mine. Cam's freaking alarm's going off. What are you at, Cam?
Let me check right now. It's been going off for a little bit. I've been trying to keep it quiet, but I don't know if you can see that. 54.
Oh yeah, brother.
So Cam's dropping. Yeah, so I mean, guys, this is real life stuff here. Like, this is the stuff that make us really focused and knowing what's going on. There is no surprises in our life, right? Mm-hmm. We don't leave our phone because it has our blood sugars on it, right? We don't forget an extra insulin because our life depends on it, right?
All right, thank you everybody for coming.
I love
Cam's got to go get some food.
Yeah, we got to get Cam.
All right, peace and love.
Although
everyone.
54 for Cam, Cam could go work out right now.
Steady Eddie, bro.
Good, man.
Damn, son. All right.
Cam,
that's pretty awesome.
Appreciate you, brother. Now, last thing is, where can people find you, Cam? Where are social media? I know we're a little bit, you know, that's not your main thing, but like, do you have a LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that?
Honestly, I don't have Facebook. I have an Instagram, but I don't do any posting.
I love that. See, that's what I love about Cam.
I'm old school, but if there's any parents or kids that need help or want help, reach out to Kevin. Kevin, freely share my information.
I will.
I'm happy to help any way I can. And, you know, there is no dumb question. So
100%. What's our email, Jack?
somerarehumans@gmail.com.
SOME, rarehumans with an S at Gmail. Reach out if you guys have questions. Cam, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, dude.
And
get fed.